What if, what if the intense, overwhelming feeling of falling in love, the racing heart, the absolute obsession with another person,
Yeah, that whole visceral
and what
experience.
if all of that is, structurally speaking, biologically indistinguishable from you craving a slice of pepperoni pizza?
I mean, it is a profoundly unromantic thought. When you frame it like that, it strips away thousands of years of art and poetry.
Totally.
It reduces one of our most complex human experiences to, well, a basic bodily function.
But see, that friction right there is exactly why we are here today.
Yeah.
We are welcoming you, our naturally curious listener, to take a deep dive into one of the oldest, most universal, and frankly, most maddening human questions.
Why do we fall in love?
Exactly. Is it simply biology?
Yeah.
Like just a cocktail of brain chemicals compelling us to act?
Mm.
Or is it a profound philosophical choice that shapes who we are?
And to figure that out, we're going to have to bridge a pretty massive gap
Oh,
today.
yeah, a huge one.
We are taking modern cognitive science and evolutionary biology, and we are colliding them with contemporary philosophy. And we're anchoring this whole discussion in the ancient foundational wisdom of Plato.
It's a lot. We're exploring how another person can suddenly and inexplicably become the absolute center of your universe.
Right.
And doing this, it really feels like trying to read a clinical biology manual and like a book of passionate poetry at the exact same time. Two wildly different fields trying to pin down the exact same human experience.
It really is. So if we're going to put love under the microscope, I think we have to start with a deceptively simple question. Is love actually an emotion?
Because if you ask anyone on the street, the answer is an obvious yes, right? It's like the ultimate emotion.
You would certainly think so. But the biological perspective offers a pretty jarring counterargument here. Evolutionary anthropologist Helen Fisher argues that romantic love isn't an emotion at all.
Wait, really? Not an emotion?
Not according to her, no. She classifies it as a primitive, hardwired drive. And she is actually the one who compares it to hunger or thirst.
Okay, I have to push back on that immediately. Because hunger is, well, it's a straightforward mechanism. My stomach is empty, my brain says eat, I eat, the feeling goes away.
Right. Simple cause and effect.
But love is infinitely messier than that. How can the biology equate the two?
Well, because structurally, they are operating from the exact same primitive machinery. Fisher's research points to the activation of neurons in the midbrain that secrete dopamine.
Okay, the midbrain.
Yeah, and this isn't the sophisticated reasoning part of your cortex. This is like the basement of the brain. Natural selection designed this specific dopamine-fueled drive to push human beings through three distinct necessary phases for survival.
Right, I remember this from the reading. It's lust, attraction, and attachment.
Exactly. And each one serves a highly specific evolutionary function. So lust is just a general radar. It gets you out there looking for potential mates, casting a wide net.
Just getting you out of the cave.
Right. But you can't mate with everyone, so the brain introduces attraction. And attraction focuses all your metabolic energy on one specific partner, so you don't waste time and resources.
Makes sense.
And then finally, attachment is the slow burn neurochemistry, the stuff that keeps you together long enough to actually raise the offspring.
I mean, when you break it down like a biological project timeline, it makes sense mechanically,
Sure.
but it just feels entirely insufficient to me. If love is just a midbrain dopamine drive pushing me to procreate, that doesn't account for, the paralyzing anxiety, the societal pressures, or all the complex ways we actually structure our relationships.
And that gap you are sensing, that space between the raw biology and the lived experience, that is exactly where philosophers step in.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Jesse Prince and Irina Pismini tackle this head-on in our sources. They argue that love cannot be a standard emotion because it completely lacks what philosophers call aptness conditions.
Aptness conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, I need you to translate that into everyday terms.
Yeah.
How does a normal emotion have an aptness condition?
Think about the emotion of fear. Fear has a very clear, objective aptness condition, which is a threat of danger.
Okay.
If a grizzly bear is charging at you, your fear is apt. It is objectively appropriate to the situation. But if a fluffy kitten rolls over on the carpet...
Fear is not apt. It's totally inappropriate.
Exactly.
Okay, I follow that. So if fear requires a threat to make sense, what makes love make sense?
And that is the million-dollar question. What makes love objectively appropriate? Prinz and Pismini argue that there is actually no universal condition.
Really?
None at all. None. I mean, you can love someone who treats you terribly. You can love someone you've only known for 3 days. Because there is no rational condition that governs it, They argue we shouldn't classify love as a single emotion, but rather as a syndrome.
A syndrome. That sounds clinical, like a disease you catch.
It does sound pathological, but they are using it in a much broader sense. A syndrome is just a cluster of symptoms. In this case, love is a cluster of biological symptoms, the racing heart, the dopamine spikes. But those symptoms are heavily, heavily structured by cultural scripts.
Ah, okay. So it's the society you live in that dictates how this biological drive is actually allowed to express itself. That feels a lot like that concept I was reading about where love is described as having two distinct halves that are constantly interacting.
Yes. You are thinking of Carrie Jenkins and her dual nature theory. Jenkins argues that trying to separate the biology from the society is just impossible.
They're too intertwined.
Exactly. Love is inherently both biological and psychosocial at the exact same time.
Right. And to really illustrate how this works, there was this fascinating example she gave of a 19th century lesbian couple in England.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, because if we look at this through the dual nature lens, biologically, their brains are doing the exact same thing as a heterosexual couple.
Right. The midbrain dopamine is firing. The oxytocin is creating real, profound attachment.
Exactly. The biological drive is just screaming at full volume. But then they hit a brick wall because the psychosocial script of their specific era provides absolutely no outlet for that biology.
Right. They couldn't get married. They couldn't openly buy a house together or be recognized as a family unit.
So the biological engine is revving, but this societal script is entirely restrictive. It's actively trying to suppress the reality of their relationship.
And that tension is profound. The biological reality collides with the social reality, and both of those forces construct the actual lived experience of love for those two women. You simply cannot understand their love without acknowledging both the neurochemistry and the oppressive cultural framework.
Okay, let's unpack this with a visual for you listening. If love has this dual nature, it's a lot like a car. The biology, the dopamine, the evolutionary drive to attach, that is the engine. It provides all the raw forward momentum.
I like that.
But society.
Ah.
Society provides the roadmap, the traffic lights, the speed limits, and even the laws about which side of the street we're legally allowed to drive on.
That is a remarkably effective way to picture it. But if we accept your car analogy, it kind of forces us into a very uncomfortable corner.
Uh-oh. Why is that?
Well, if biology is just a blind engine pushing us forward and society is just setting the external traffic laws, where does personal choice come in? Do you, as the driver, actually have any rational reasons for choosing the specific person you put in the passenger seat?
Well, of course I do. I mean, if someone asks me why I love my partner, I don't say, well, because my midbrain dopamine levels are elevated and society says it's time to get married.
Right. That would be a weird wedding vow.
Exactly. I say I love them because they are incredibly smart, they have a wicked sense of humor, and they are kind to animals. Those are my reasons.
They feel like your reasons. But philosopher Aaron Smuts would argue you are completely deceiving yourself.
Deceiving myself.
Yeah. He champions what's called the no reasons view of love. Smuts argues that love operates entirely outside the realm of rational justification. It is an irrational state.
Irrational. So not necessarily irrational or crazy, but just like existing totally outside of logic.
Exactly.
I don't know, it feels incredibly dismissive to say I don't have real reasons for loving someone.
Well, Smuts would counter that your list of traits, smart, funny, kind, those are post hoc rationalizations. You don't love your partner because they are brilliant. You think they're brilliant because you already love them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The biological urge hits first, and then your brain scrambles to invent a logical story to justify it. Lovers project value onto the beloved.
Projecting value. Okay, wait. Like in Don Quixote.
Yes, exactly.
A Knight of the Mirrors. Right. Quixote is utterly obsessed with Dulcinea, and he expects everyone else in the world to see her as the most beautiful, noble woman to ever exist, which is completely absurd to everyone else.
Precisely. Or, take a more visceral example. Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh, perfect.
Lysander is deeply in love with Hermia. Then a magic potion is dropped in his eyes while he sleeps. He wakes up, sees Helena, and is instantly biologically obsessed with her.
And he immediately abandons Hermia.
But look at how he abandons her. He doesn't just say, oh, I've been magically compelled. He instantly starts inventing rational reasons for why Helena is objectively superior.
Right. He makes up excuses.
Yeah, he gives this whole speech. The will of man is by his reason swayed, and reason says you are the worthier maid.
Oh, that's brilliant. Because the audience knows it's a potion, right? It's the biological intervention doing all the work. But His brain is desperately trying to convince him that it's a logical choice based on her superior properties.
Pop culture explores this constantly because it reflects a deep, unsettling truth about human nature. Think of the noir genre, or movies like Fatal Attraction.
Oh, yeah.
You have these characters who know logically that their romantic choice is destructive, irrational, and completely counter to their own interests. Their reason is screaming at them to stop.
But they can't. The engine is running way too hot. They blow up their marriages, their careers, their lives, all because the obsession completely overrides the logic.
And that inability to stop proves that love doesn't belong to the realm of logic. But if you are still clinging to the idea that you love your partner because of their specific properties, their kindness, their humor, there is a much more devastating philosophical trap waiting for you.
Okay, lay it on me.
It's articulated by Troy Jollymore, and it's called the trading up problem.
The trading up problem.
Yeah.
This sounds like deciding to trade in an old car for a newer model, which, applied to human beings, sounds awful.
It is deeply awful, and that is exactly the point. Jollymore uses it to break the reason's view of love. Let's walk through the logic. You claim you love your partner because they are kind, beautiful, and say they play the piano well.
Sure.
If those properties are the actual rational reasons for your love, then logic demands a specific reaction when you encounter better properties.
Oh no, I see where this is going. I hate this already.
Yeah, if you are at a party and someone walks into the room who is objectively kinder, more beautiful, and a better piano player than your partner, well, rationality dictates that you are obligated to transfer your love to the new person.
That's horrible.
You must trade up, just like you would trade up for a better smartphone if you only valued its features.
That is deeply uncomfortable. Because basic logic says you're right. If I only value the properties, I should always seek the maximum amount of those properties.
Right.
But obviously, human psychology rejects this entirely. I mean, if I told my partner I was logically obligated to trade up because someone funnier walked into the room, I would rightfully be alone forever.
Exactly. Real love fundamentally rejects the trading up problem, which leaves us with a paradox. We don't just love blank slates, we clearly value our partner's specific quirks and traits, but we also don't love them just as a collection of upgradable properties.
So what is the actual object of our love?
It has to be something that resists comparison, something that is totally unique to them.
And that brings us to the concept of irreplaceability. True love does not accept substitutes, no matter how identical or superior the substitute might seem.
Right.
There was this classic philosophical thought experiment about a childhood pet that illustrates this perfectly, doesn't it?
Yes. Clyde the turtle.
Clyde the turtle.
Imagine a young child has a pet turtle named Clyde. The child loves Clyde. One day, Clyde tragically dies. The parents, wanting to spare the child pain, secretly go to the pet store and buy a new turtle that is biologically indistinguishable from Clyde.
Same size, same markings, same turtle behaviors.
But when the kid finds out, they are absolutely devastated. And the parents are confused because they think, look, this turtle has all the exact same turtle qualities as Clyde. It's practically a clone.
But the parents are making a philosophical error there. They think the child loves a set of properties. The child does not want turtle properties.
Right.
The child wants Clyde, the specific historical entity.
Because Clyde is entirely irreplaceable. But what exactly makes him irreplaceable? I mean, if they look the same and act the same, what is the invisible tether that makes the original turtle matter so much?
That's the real question.
The philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty offers a beautiful framework for understanding this, and it centers on a word you don't usually associate with romance: sedimentation.
Sedimentation, like rocks and silts settling at the bottom of a river over thousands of years.
Precisely. Merleau-Ponty suggests that human history settles into us in the exact same way. We don't just love abstract floating qualities. When you spend time with someone, your shared timeline literally becomes sedimented into your physical body, your habits, your neurochemistry, and your shared world.
Oh, it's like the way you learn to move around each other in a small kitchen without speaking.
Yes.
Or how a specific glance across a crowded room communicates a three-layered inside joke that nobody else could possibly decipher.
Yes. That history is muscular. It settles into your bones. The philosopher Nico Kolodny takes this a step further and argues that the relationship itself, that unrepeatable shared history, is the actual reason for the love.
So it all comes down to the breaking in process.
What do you mean?
It's like a well-worn leather jacket. You don't love your favorite jacket because it's objectively the finest garment on earth. A master tailor could walk into the room with a brand new jacket made of superior leather with stronger stitching. They're offering you the chance to trade up.
Had you reject it? Why?
Because I don't care about the objective properties of the leather. I love my jacket because, over a decade of wear and tear, getting caught in the rain, throwing it on the back of chairs, it has molded to my exact physical shape. It carries my history in its creases. A brand new, better jacket wouldn't fit me. It wouldn't know me.
That is the perfect encapsulation of sedimentation. You love the individual because they are the physical embodiment of your shared timeline. You cannot trade up because a new person, no matter how objectively superior their traits might be, has no sedimented history with you.
This realization that true love is anchored in the irreplaceable individual, it's so powerful. But it makes me wonder how long humans have understood this. If we go back to the absolute foundations of Western thought on love, back to Plato in ancient Greece, did he grasp this idea of the irreplaceable individual?
That is actually one of the most fiercely debated questions in philosophy. There is a prominent thinker, Gregory Vlastos, who launched a massive critique against Plato, arguing that the ancient Greeks completely missed the mark on interpersonal love.
Wait, Plato, the guy whose name literally gave us the phrase platonic love, didn't understand how to love a person.
According to Vlastos, no. Vlastos looked at Plato's most famous text on love, the Symposium, and specifically the concept known as the ladder of love.
Okay, the ladder of love, how does that work?
In this framework, a lover begins by being attracted to one beautiful physical body, but then they realize beauty exists in all bodies, so they move up a rung.
Okay, moving up.
Then they move up to loving beautiful minds, then beautiful laws and societal institutions.
So they are climbing further and further away from the physical world. Where does it end?
At the very top of the ladder is the contemplation of the ultimate, abstract form of beauty itself. It is pure philosophy, pure wisdom.
But wait, where does the specific person fit into that? Where is the leather jacket?
Vlastos argues that the individual is completely lost. In the ladder of love, a human being is just an instrumental stepping stone. You use a person's physical beauty to get a glimpse of the abstract concept, and then you leave them behind on the bottom rung as you ascend.
Wow.
Yeah. Vlastos says this treats human beings as disposable tools for philosophical enlightenment.
Ouch. That is incredibly cold. It's the exact opposite of sedimentation. You're just tossing the jacket the moment you understand the chemical composition of leather.
It is a damning critique. But many brilliant philosophers, like Martha Nussbaum and Iakobos Vasiliou, strongly defend Plato here.
No, they push back.
Strongly. They argue Vlastos misread the Symposium by taking the ladder of love out of its dramatic context. Plato didn't write textbooks, right? He wrote plays. And the climax of this particular play proves Plato understood earthly love perfectly.
This is where Alcibiades crashes the party.
Exactly. Throughout the Symposium, you have these lofty, pristine speeches about abstract love. But then, right at the end, Alcibiades bursts through the doors. He is completely drunk, he is messy, and he delivers this wildly passionate, deeply personal speech about his absolute obsession with Socrates as a specific, flawed, irreplaceable individual.
It's like Plato built this beautiful, sterile ladder of philosophy and then intentionally threw a drunken human being at it to show how messy reality actually is.
Nussbaum argues Plato did exactly that. He included Alcibiades to show the excruciating tension between our desire for ultimate wisdom and the gravitational pull of loving a specific human being.
That's brilliant.
Furthermore, Vasiliou points out that Plato writing these dialogues was in itself an act of profound sedimented love.
How so?
Well, Plato spent his entire life writing to immortalize one irreplaceable individual, his mentor, Socrates. If Plato truly believed individuals were just disposable stepping stones, he would have just written dry academic treatises on the form of beauty.
Right, but he didn't.
No. Instead, he wrote vivid, dramatic plays starring his beloved friend. He pursued ultimate wisdom, but he did it through his love for an individual.
That reframes everything. It means the philosophical journey and the messy interpersonal love aren't enemies, they are intertwined. Which connects beautifully to a modern philosopher, Nora Kreft, and her take on another one of Plato's great dialogues on love, the Phaedrus.
Yes. In the Phaedrus, Socrates gives us this famous image of the human soul as a chariot pulled by wild winged horses. Kreft uses this to challenge the idea we talked about earlier, the fatal attraction idea that love destroys our autonomy and turns us into slaves to our biological passions.
Right, the idea that love is just a midbrain dopamine drive that forces us to make terrible decisions against our will.
Kreft argues the exact opposite. Love doesn't destroy our autonomy. It is actually the mechanism that promotes it. She suggests that when you truly love someone, it creates an intense, unyielding desire for what she calls deep conversation.
Deep conversation. We're not talking about asking how their day at work was, right? You mean the kind where you stay up until 3 a.m. on the kitchen floor talking about the meaning of the universe?
Precisely. It is a mutual, fearless exploration of your fundamental beliefs, your deepest fears, and your core values. When you love an irreplaceable individual, you want to understand the architecture of their mind, and you want them to understand yours.
Yeah.
And by engaging in this, lovers constantly challenge each other's dogmas. They force each other to justify their assumptions.
So if love ultimately drives us to this space where we are relentlessly examining our own beliefs and trying to understand another person's reality, does that mean true love is inherently a philosophical act? By loving someone, are we basically doing philosophy?
That is Kreft's ultimate conclusion, and it aligns perfectly with the ancient wisdom of Socrates. Love is the primary driver of philosophy. It shakes us out of our complacency. It loosens the grip of our preconceived notions and social conditioning. And through that deep, shared conversation with our beloved, we emancipate each other. We become truly self-determined.
Wow. What an incredible conceptual journey this has been.
Yeah.
We started in the literal basement of the brain, identifying love as a blind midbrain dopamine drive, pushing us to survive.
Yeah.
Then we navigated the complex societal traffic laws that restrict and define how we are actually allowed to express that biology.
We wrestled with the uncomfortable logic of the trading up problem, realizing that love cannot simply be a calculation of someone's best properties.
We looked at a replaced turtle and a worn-out leather jacket to understand how our shared history physically sediments in our bones, making the people we love completely irreplaceable.
Right.
And finally, we landed on this beautiful realization. Love isn't just a biological urge or a cultural syndrome. It is a profound, autonomy-building philosophical dialogue.
It is the ultimate synthesis. The biological engine provides the spark, but the shared philosophical journey provides the destination.
So, to you listening, the next time you feel that overwhelming, terrifying rush of romance, the racing heart and the sweaty palms, remember that you aren't just a victim of your evolutionary biology craving a metaphorical slice of pizza. You are standing at the threshold of a unique, irreplaceable connection, a deep conversation that has the power to redefine exactly who you are.
But before we let you go, there is one final provocative thought that emerges from this intersection of biology and philosophy. It comes from bioethicist Brian Earp, who looks forward to the future of biotechnology.
And this genuinely blew my mind when I read it.
If we accept that love is a dual nature phenomenon, a mix of biological chemistry and the psychosocial history of sedimentation, what happens when science eventually catches up and creates literal love potions?
And we aren't talking about magic here. We're talking about targeted neurochemical interventions. Pills or therapies designed to artificially and instantly boost your oxytocin and dopamine levels to manufacture that profound, heavy feeling of long-term attachment.
Exactly. Earp asks a deeply unsettling question about the nature of our leather jackets. If we can biologically synthesize the exact neurochemical feeling of 10 years of shared sedimentation in a single afternoon in a laboratory, what happens to our definition of love?
If the biology feels identical to you, is that manufactured love any less valid than the kind that takes a decade of messy, real-world, deep conversation to build? Does the actual history still matter if the brain can't tell the difference?
It forces us to ask whether the struggle, the time, and the deep conversation are the actual value of love, or if the neurochemical end state is all that truly counts.
It brings our entire deep dive full circle. It turns out that clinical biology manual and that book of passionate poetry, they might actually be describing the exact same human experience, just written in two completely different languages. Yeah. And we are only just beginning to figure out how to translate them.